Thank you for coming today. I was stressing about the weather and hoping that it didn't keep people away. But luckily for the people out there, we are recording this. If someone does not want to be on TV, on the local channel, let us know. You can sit in the back or something. But today is all about things you're going to need to know sooner or later. I was hoping that there would be adult children here so that they can pass information along, or you can pass information along to whoever's in your life that's going to need to know this information as well as yourselves. So I'm Tina Brohman, Veteran Service Officer in Palmer. I'm also interim in Sturbridge. And this is my daughter, Haley Fullen, and she is the VSO in Munson. Do you want to say anything? So we have a few presenters today. Unfortunately, because of the weather and people coming from out west where it's coming from, we do not have as many as we were hoping, and maybe some are running late. But the ones that we do have are very important. So, and we'll have, because it is a small group, we can do a quick question and answer. But if you have something lengthy, we'll have you step off to the side when the presenter is done, and you can ask those, the personal questions or something that might take an appointment, and you can make an appointment with them on the side. So we'll be aware of everyone's time and respect everyone's time. Plus, we have people that have to travel all the way to the Berkshires. So with that, I'm going to invite Bill, come on up. He can introduce himself. I'm very excited that you're here. This is very important information.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Billy Lohr, and I am the manager of the Massachusetts Veterans Memorial Cemetery out in Agawam. I was also a funeral director for 35 years out in the Berkshires, so I pretty much spent my whole career in aftercare. Thank you, Tina, for inviting us to come out and kind of talk about our mission in Agawam and what we do to serve our veterans. Our facility out in Agawam opened up in May of 2001. Here we are 20-something years later, and we're doing about 900 interments a year at the cemetery. The application process is pretty straightforward. We don't pre-register, so we don't take any documents in advance. We have to wait until the time of need, and those documents would be submitted by your funeral provider that's working with you to inter either a veteran or a spouse. So we have a 2-page application that gets filled out. We would also need the veteran's DD-214 along with a marriage certificate and either a birth certificate or a driver's license for the veteran and the spouse. Those documents are submitted by the funeral director. We go over them, make sure that the veteran is eligible, and then we reach back out to the funeral home to go ahead and schedule. It's a pretty simple process. Doesn't take very long to vet everything. In order to be eligible, if the veteran served prior to September of 1980, they only need 1 day of active duty, just 1 day. If you served after September of 1980, you would need 2 years of active duty. If you were National Guard, you would have to have 20 years of Guard service unless you were called up by the President for active duty. So those are the requirements for the cemetery in Agawam, our sister cemetery in Winchendon, as well as we follow all the guidelines for all the national cemeteries. So we all kind of require the same as far as eligibility is concerned. There's no fees at the cemetery for the veteran. So once you come in our gate, we provide the burial lot, the grave liner if it's a casket interment, the opening and closing of the grave, and the monument. The only fee at the cemetery would be for a spouse. So if a spouse is going to be interred with the veteran and they're going to a casketed burial site, the fee would be $300 to open and close the grave. If it's a cremation, the fee is only $150. So those would be the only fees that would happen at the cemetery. Of course, you're going to have fees at the funeral home prior to, coming to us for a committal service. We do all of our interments, all our committal services are indoors in our indoor chapel. And then after the service ends, the remains are brought out to the burial site, and the family's welcome to come visit after 4 o'clock on the day of interment. So we don't do anything at the gravesite. Everything is done inside our chapel. If you come for interment, families are allowed to have a clergy person do committal prayers, or if you don't want clergy, a family member is allowed to get up and speak. And then we make arrangements for the branch's service to be there, and those are active duty military that would fold and present the flag. We also have a firing detail that's all volunteer that does the volley. Taps are sounded, and then people are given the opportunity to come up and pay their final respects before they exit the chapel. So it's about 20 to 25 minutes start to finish. A spouse service is the same thing in the chapel with clergy or a family member. There's a reflection song that we play at the end. So all of our interments are inside the chapel. We would order the monument if it's going to be an in-ground burial. The monument is an upright granite monument. It would have the veteran's name and information on the front, and then if the spouse was interred, her information would go on the back of the stone. We also have a niche cover for columbarium interment if you're going to be buried above ground and it's cremation. You can also be cremated and interred in the ground with an upright monument. So the process is, it's not complicated. What I would suggest to everyone, the biggest problem that we run into is someone passes away and then children, spouses are scrambling to find a DD-214, a marriage certificate, a birth certificate. So get all of those documents together and then make sure that someone in your family knows where they are. Or you can take all those documents to the funeral home that your family uses, and the funeral director will start a little pre-arrangement for you, and then he would forward all the documents to us at the time of need. In the packet that I brought, it's just our little how to prepare. It goes over all the documents that you're going to need. There's also a copy of the application in there that we use. We wouldn't accept any of those documents again until either the veteran or the spouse passes away. And it doesn't matter who passes first, you're going to be together, whether it's in the ground or above ground in the columbarium wall. So no one is separated. Anybody have any questions?
What do you do if you can't find a DD-214?
So if you don't have a DD-214, we have access to military records online. So if you went into the service in the state of Massachusetts, all of those documents are held there. We can look there. If you didn't go in from the state of Massachusetts or they don't have your document, we can submit a request to St. Louis and they would send us the documents.
Going back to World War II?
Correct. Yep. Sometimes if we have to go to St. Louis, it takes a little longer, so that might delay things while we wait to get the documents. But we do have access to search for documents for you. Absolutely. Yes?
Yeah, my father-in-law passed away 8 years ago. World War II vet, cremated. He's sitting on a shelf at home. We want to take his ashes and his wife's ashes, she just passed away, and put them in the wall. Since he didn't just pass away, is there going to be a problem?
Nope, not at all. And you can do that yourself.
Okay.
You don't need a funeral director. You can call. We'll schedule everything with you directly. You would submit the application and all the documents, and then we would arrange for a committal service in the chapel. We would make arrangements for the military to be there. So yeah, not at all a problem.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
there a standard or minimum container requirement?
So for cremation, if you're going to be buried above ground in the wall, we would accept plastic, metal, granite, marble, anything. If you're going to be interred in the ground in its cremains, it has to be a non-biodegradable container. So again, plastic, metal, granite or marble. If it's a wood urn, we would require that the funeral home provide a burial vault, a fiberglass container that the urn would go in. And we started requiring those because we're finding people are moving around a lot now, so we're disinterring. And without that vault, there's really nothing there but some dirt to give back to families, to wherever they're going to take their loved ones.
Then you made mention about a branch or service to get in touch with for a ceremony.
Yep.
What if you're being buried in a private cemetery? What do you want?
So if you're going to be buried in a private cemetery and you want military honors, your funeral director, they have a form for each branch, and they can send that to them to provide military honors, and they'll go out to any cemetery to do that. Absolutely. You're entitled to that.
Is there one on Cape Cod?
There's a national cemetery in Bourne, correct? They do casket interments and cremation. The only difference there is they have no monuments. They have no upright monuments. All of their markers are flush marker to the ground. So when you go in there, it's kind of like a big pasture. It's just very well manicured grass, but the markers are flush to the ground. That would be the only difference between them and us. Yep. So again, it's a pretty simple process. It doesn't take long. Everybody in the office is more than glad to accommodate and try to help find documents and paperwork, to move the process along quickly. So again, the main thing I would stress is get all your documents together so that you know where they are, or someone in your family knows where they are, and that way there it doesn't delay, making arrangements and getting you interred.
If you're divorced, you don't need a decree, do you?
If what?
If you're divorced,
So if you're divorced,
it doesn't.
no, we don't need a. If the veteran is divorced, unfortunately, that makes the spouse
Yeah.
uneligible to be interred there.
So you need a birth certificate?
A
and
birth,
license?
no, one or the other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one or the other. And we use those documents just to confirm
That's you.
date of birth, name. You'd be amazed how often names change from a DD 214 to a birth certificate. What happened in the process? Who knows? But that's why we require those. Yep.
Do they have to be original documents, or can we just get a file and make photocopies and put it in there?
We accept photocopies of everything. Nothing needs to be original as long as the documents are legible. That's all. Yep.
It's very beautiful at Agawam. My parents are in the wall 8, and it's just so beautiful there.
Yeah, the guys take a lot of pride in what they do.
Oh.
Everyone does. So yeah, much appreciated. Okay, so again, if anybody has any questions, our phone number is on all the paperwork that I provided. You can reach out, call the cemetery. Come on in if you want to talk. We're glad to sit with anybody and go over whatever we need to do to help you out. That's what we're there for. So thank you.
Thank you for coming today. Safe travels. Okay. All right. All right, so today we have a variety of people coming up, presenters. We're going to have Mr. Steve Alminas come up from Morgan Stanley. He's going to be talking about some financial information. Thank you for coming today.
Hey, everybody. As Tina said, my name's Steve Alminas. I'm a financial advisor with Morgan Stanley. I work on a team. We're known as the Gregory Group at Morgan Stanley. I work with my father-in-law. And what we really specialize in is working with people who are approaching or in retirement. It's a little bit different type of investing in retirement as compared to when you're in your building years, working and putting away assets. We like to think of ourselves as one of 3 professionals that everyone should be dealing with in retirement, if not sooner. That being a CPA or a qualified person for your taxes, to do your tax return, an estate planning professional, an attorney, and then the financial advisor being our piece where we kind of coordinate and make sure everything really flows together. Some of the differences in retirement, a lot of it has to do with Social Security and Medicare, those being kind of the big subjects for anybody looking to retire. We find that most people, as they're approaching retirement, really have 2 things that keep them from getting to where they want to be. The first being, if you're under 65, health insurance. That's a major cost, even once you're 65, but before you reach Medicare age, that can be a real deterrent for people to retire because of the cost. And the second being debt. So what we try to work with anybody who's under 65 to do is really make sure that they've got those 2 pieces covered. Make sure that they're either low or no debt going into retirement and that they have a good plan for their health insurance. So you want to be working with somebody who has a good understanding of Medicare and Social Security. When to claim Social Security benefits is really, it's really become a complicated topic, especially if you're married. There are different strategies. But for the most part, we see people tending to claim Social Security when they're first eligible and they're retired. So that's something we discuss a lot in the planning stages, but we also help our clients get enrolled in both Social Security and Medicare. So those are important topics to make sure your financial advisor knows and is discussing with you. The second being the estate planning documents. So everybody should have a will, power of attorney, and a healthcare proxy. Those are the 3 main documents that you want to have if at retirement, if not sooner. And what that's going to do is really make sure that your assets are passed on to who you want them to go to. The biggest one for most people being the house, and we get asked a lot, what can I do to protect my assets from the nursing home or Medicaid recovery? Should I go into the nursing home and I have to spend down my assets? It's a tough subject, but basically Medicaid, if you were to go into a nursing home, can attach pretty much any asset that you have. They usually start with any liquid assets, savings in the bank, any stocks you own, bonds, retirement accounts. And what they'll do is they'll make you spend those down in order to cover the cost of the nursing home. But there are some strategies if you work with an estate planning attorney to protect the house. And we find that that's most people's one of their biggest assets is the house. So to protect that for the next generation is a lot of times what people are looking to do. So there are some strategies in order to do that. What we get asked a lot too as people are getting closer to retirement is, what can I do with these assets? How can I turn these assets into cash flow? And for most people nowadays, there's really so few people with a pension left, unless you work for the government, that you're really relying mostly on Social Security and what you have saved, either in a 401k, IRA, any type of retirement account. And our job is to really help turn those assets into income, because most people tend to want to stay with a similar type of income in retirement. And in order to do that, you have to have a certain amount of assets so that you can provide that cash flow and make sure that it lasts the rest of your life. The other big thing that we see a lot is legacy wishes, where everyone wants to make sure that their assets go to a loved one, maybe the next generation. So the biggest thing that you can do apart from doing the will, would be making sure you have a beneficiary on everything you own. So all your retirement accounts, even bank accounts, make sure you have those with a beneficiary. The checking accounts sometimes can be tricky to add a beneficiary, but what we recommend is keeping just what you need in the checking, because a savings account, you can always add a beneficiary. So by doing that, what you're doing is really saving your children, grandchildren, whoever's going to inherit the assets from a lot of trouble with probate, because probate is really the most daunting task for the personal representative who you name to take care of your assets once you're gone, in really distributing them to the beneficiaries. So the more you can avoid probate, the better off you're going to be. And then the last really piece that we like to deal with our clients is really letting them know that they should be able to ask us any financial question that they have. So nothing's really off the table. What we do is, certainly manage the money, try to make sure that it lasts the rest of their lives, make sure that, they're getting good returns without risking too much on the side of market risk, which is what everybody, certainly can recognize when they look at the stock market, but also keeping in mind inflation, as we've seen in the last few years, can really eat into what you have saved and what your income is producing. So what we like to do is really put together a comprehensive plan that incorporates all those pieces to make sure that every one of our clients knows exactly what's going to be coming in each month for their income, and they know at the end of the day, when they pass on, that their assets are going to go to who they want and named as beneficiaries. So that's pretty much all I had. I would like to take some questions, nothing specific, but I can go over any general questions that anyone has. It could be market related, any type of financial question is fine.
401ks. What happens when you die? You have a 401k that's been dwindling because of the RMD.
Yes, good question. So 401k, you would want to make sure you have a beneficiary on the account. As long as you have a beneficiary, what'll happen is that person would notify the record keeper, which is where the money is, where the assets are. They would send them some paperwork. They'd fill it out, and they would the account would be turned over into their name. They would create a beneficiary account. One of the main differences with beneficiary accounts compared to a few years ago, they changed the tax rules where now anybody who is a non-spouse beneficiary has to deplete the 401k or IRA within 10 years. So they have a 10-year period, and they also have to take out, starting in 2025, they adjusted it where you have to take out a certain percentage based on your age and the balance each year within those 10-year period.
Beneficiaries age.
Yes, based on the beneficiary's age, but it does bring up some good planning questions, because for anyone who's got substantial assets in a 401k or traditional IRA, if you're leaving those to a non-spouse beneficiary, it could be some significant income that they have to take on. And a lot of times what happens is we'll see a parent pass away in their 80s or 90s or whenever, and their beneficiaries tend to be in some of their highest earning years, like in their 50s, maybe early 60s. So it does sometimes create a tax burden, even though it's a nice gift to have, but it can create quite a bit of tax liability for that person.
So by having a beneficiary, goes right to them, no probate.
Correct. Yeah, it avoids probate. It's usually a pretty easy process where if somebody passes away, the beneficiary would give us a copy of the death certificate. We would drop the paperwork, and the account would get moved as is from your account to the beneficiary's account, and it would create the.
Take it out.
And then, yeah, unfortunately, the end of the,
Is there an amount? Like, say it had $1 million $1 million.
Sure.
10% of that, we have to take out?
Yeah, well, again, that's another strategy. With the new rules, it's creating some strategy questions where, for using your example, if you had $1 million that passed down to a beneficiary, now their required minimum distribution each year would be much lower, but you may want to take out 100,000 each year in order to spread out. Right.
We have to do it at 10 years?
Yes, the account has to be completely depleted after year 10. So we've seen people where they're allowing it to play out, where they're taking only small amounts each year, which is their required amounts. But when they get to year 10, they're going to have to take out quite a sizable distribution. So some people decide to go the opposite direction, where they take out roughly 10% per year in order to spread out that tax liability.
The RMD based upon the deceased age that you would have been, or on the beneficiary's age?
It's based on the beneficiary's age. That's a good question. If you were taking required minimum distributions when you pass, that's when the beneficiary will have to continue those required minimum distributions each year. So they will get to do it based on the IRS table for their age. But what the IRS looks at is two things. They look at your age and they look at your balance as of December 31st of the year prior. And they go right to the table, and that determines how much you have to take out each year.
What about a minor? Say like somebody who's 7 years old.
Yes. Minors have some specific rules in terms of those required minimum distributions. They can actually wait until they become of age. So there's some special rules regarding minors and anyone inheriting your 401k or IRA that's within 10 years of you. So there are some special rules. Now, a spouse has the best treatment. A spouse can inherit a 401k or IRA and treat it as if it were their own. So that's why most people will leave as the primary beneficiary or first beneficiary as their spouse, and then as contingent beneficiaries, either a child or grandchild. But we typically recommend not leaving the 401k to a minor, but it can be done. Absolutely.
What about a Roth IRA?
The nice thing with the Roth is it'll never be taxable to the beneficiary, and it still has that 10-year rule, but they won't have to take money out in the first 9 years. They just have to deplete the account after year 10, and everything can come out tax-free. So that's why there's a lot of talk in our industry now about Roth conversions, taking pre-tax money and converting it to Roth. It's been a big subject for those reasons exactly. Someone with a high balance in pre-tax accounts, they're thinking not only in terms of their own tax liability, but what is the tax liability for my beneficiaries going to be? And that's why you see Roth conversions becoming a bigger topic. And we've been doing those with some of our clients who have higher balances. The best way to do that really, though, is over time, not to convert too much, because anything you convert is taxable in that year.
Can a savings be turned into a Roth?
Well, Roth money has to come from one of two places. It can be either converted from traditional pre-tax assets, or it can be a contribution. But the only way you can make a contribution is if you have earned wages. So what we find is most people, if you don't have a Roth currently, and you don't have any pre-tax assets, it's hard to get money from a savings account into a Roth. That's where you'd probably look to like your typical brokerage account or a non-retirement investment account.
You said to take that money out for 10 years, if it's like a 401, what if I just have a small stock portfolio, like from my mother? Do I still have to deplete it within 10 years?
If
just regular
it's a non-retirement account.
Correct.
No, in that case, that passed along to you. You have no required minimum distributions with a retirement account. And the main thing that you want to check on that is that your record keeper, when they made that transition to you, you get to inherit that just like any other asset that you inherit at the current market value on the day she passed. So you want to make sure they did what's called a step up in cost basis, meaning if you were to sell the stock, you would have a cost basis, which is the price you paid for it, and any gains would be treated as long-term capital gains. You just want to make sure that that price that you would be charged as your cost basis matches the price of the stock on the day she passed.
Yeah, that's all set.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yep. So yeah, nothing you have to do there. You can hold that. You can pass it to the next generation. It's anything in a non-retirement account has a lot more flexibility.
So what I suggest is if you want to make an appointment with Steve, he's definitely going to be available for you. And also he'll be over on the side there after we're done. You can ask him specific questions if you think of something else.
Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. All right.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a Medicare counselor guru. I've heard him speak before. He comes highly recommended. Greg, I'm gonna not butcher your name. Kachekian? Pretty good? All right, come on up, Greg. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. It's nice to be here tonight. Hopefully you can make it home without seeing too much of the severe weather that's being forecasted. But my name's Greg Kachekian. I'm here with Medicare counselors. We're housed in an office in Hadley, Massachusetts, not far from here. It took me about half an hour to get here. But today what I'd like to do is to talk to you a little bit about Medicare, Medicare with regards to veterans benefits and Medicare in general. I know that it's been a hot topic lately because of the annual enrollment, which just finished on December 7th. It's always a stressful time for folks because we're not always sure that what we have is the best plan for us, but we know that it gives us an opportunity to make a new choice based on benefits that have been announced for the coming year. So our mission is to help you get into the most appropriate plan possible. And when I say that, I mean that we take a lot of things into consideration when we choose the plan for the coming year. Those plans are mostly regional based, unless they're a Medicare supplement plan, which is a type of plan that you can use just about anywhere in the country with any practitioner that's accepting Medicare benefits. So we also look at the practitioners that are involved in your care. That makes a big difference in terms of what plan you choose because not all practitioners accept all plans. Thirdly, we take a look at medications to make sure that your medications are actually covered by the plan of your choice or the plan that seems most appropriate for you at the time we make that choice for the coming year. So those are several things that we take a look at, but more importantly, what I like to delve into a little bit more, having been a nursing home administrator and a hospice director, come from a family of practitioners. And so I like to think a little bit more about what's going on in somebody's life so that we can get a general sense of the acuity involved with your care. Because that might determine or help us determine which type of plan you choose. A Medicare supplement might be more appropriate for folks who are getting more care from practitioners as a result of chronic illnesses or health issues that might demand more intensive care. So deciding between the Medicare supplement and Medicare Advantage plan is really the biggest first step. Once we get through that step, then we'll take a look at what types of Medicare Advantage plans might be most appropriate for folks, or whether or not a supplement might fit in your price range. So we like to take the mystery out of choosing. And so we go through a process where we distill down the options for you based on some of those criteria that I mentioned. Once we've done that, we take a look at whether or not it fits within your budget. supplements tend to be more expensive. Medicare Advantage plans tend to provide opportunities for savings. Now, one may be right for some people, may not be right for the others. And so, again, taking a look at where you stand in terms of your health trajectory, we can determine whether or not one is more appropriate than another. That having been said, there's always the question of, well, how does this fit in with my VA benefits? That's a question that I get quite often because a lot of the folks that come to see me are veterans. And so we're happy to see some of the new developments that are happening in the way these pieces fit together. Veterans are being given the opportunity now to see clinicians outside of the VA network. That's actually happening more smoothly than anybody thought, and the coordination of benefits is actually going equally as smoothly. So if there's any hesitation about picking up a Medicare plan in conjunction with your VA benefits, I would say let's take a closer look, because there are lots of good reasons to attach a Medicare plan to VA benefits, because there are extra benefits that you can get that aren't offered through your VA coverage. Some of those examples might include dental coverage. It might include hearing aid benefits. It might include glasses and such. These are the kinds of things that will be paid for by an Advantage plan, since it's designed to be more of a package type plan, and it also includes drug coverage. Now, some folks may have delayed picking up their drug coverage because of their VA benefits, which means that they've delayed picking up Part D. Now, Part D is something that's required for us to have if we want to avoid any penalties at some point when we do decide to pick up the Part D coverage. If that's the case, if somebody has put off picking up Part D drug coverage, there are ways to sort of get around the penalties if you still maintain that VA benefit for drug coverage. So there are things that we can do to avoid penalties. Some of the most important things that we can do is to enroll in Medicare when it's first made available to us. Now, we can take Part A right at 65 if we so choose, but we can also delay Part B if we so choose. That is, if we have some kind of creditable coverage, which will take the place of any Part B coverage that we might choose to wait to elect. So putting off Part B means that you have to have some other kind of insurance in place, and that can be VA benefits, or it can also be an employer-based type of coverage. So there are a number of things to think about to avoid surprises, to avoid penalties, and that's some of what we like to help people work through. It's a lot when you first get involved in it, but there are ways of making the process a lot simpler so that the choices are clear and that the coverage is appropriate. One of the things that I see most frequently with veterans is the fact that they have drug coverage and they feel like they want to put off Part D forever. Is there a solution for folks who do want to go onto a Medicare plan but not pick up the drug coverage? And the answer to that is yes. There are answers to a lot of these situations that might be confusing. And there are plans that you can pick up, Medicare Advantage-based plans that don't include drug coverage. In those situations, it's convenient, so you can avoid being assessed a Part D penalty for not picking up Part D in a timely fashion. So that having been said, I'm happy to take any questions if people have questions about their Medicare coverage now, or if they're thinking about making any changes in the first quarter of next year. Because we do have one more opportunity to make another jump within the Medicare Advantage world if we feel like we haven't made the right choice in 2025 for January 1st. So Questions?
Your office in Hadley, is that a walk-in?
It can be. I prefer that you call ahead.
Yeah.
I have some contact information. I'm sorry?
Where are you located?
I'm in Hadley, right on Bay Road,
Bay
just
Road.
off of Route 9. Yep.
Does Medicare carry any dental?
Medicare has some dental benefits. They're being slimmed down. There have been a lot of cutbacks with Medicare plans. Just this last year, we've seen a lot of slimming down of the Medicare Advantage plans. There is some coverage. It tends to be a cash type benefit that comes on a debit card that you can use with most dentists. There are some network restrictions with other plans. With some plans, there aren't. Yeah. So you can find some dental benefits out there. Yep.
Is there any way to avoid the $185 if you're a veteran with full benefits?
There is. There's something called a Medicare Savings Program. It's a program through Mass Health. It's a plan that has to be applied for. It's a short one-page form. It's easy to fill out, but it does have income restriction requirements. You have to be under a certain income threshold to qualify for the plan. It's only income-based. They don't look at assets. So it's a very simple application. It's one that I help people fill out, and if you know folks that might qualify, I'd be happy to chat with them.
So that's the only way to avoid paying $185?
That really is the only way. Yeah. It's actually going up to $202 in 2026.
Yeah, you get a $30 raise and your Medicare goes up 28.
I'm just the messenger, yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
For
Pleasure.
giving us all your knowledge. And if you need to speak to him or have any other questions, he could be here in the back, or get a business card and make an appointment with him. I'm going to break it up, and I'm going to have Dustin Ruby come on up. He is here representing CapTel. He's also a veteran service officer in Chicopee, very well knowledged on a whole bunch of different things. So we're going to have him come up and talk about his product that he has. It's absolutely amazing. I've had him come out and speak at other groups. And you don't have to be a veteran, and you don't have to be deaf. So come on down. That's it in a nutshell, right?
Yeah, thank you, Tina. Really, the best resource that you can have is Tina. If you have any questions related to veteran stuff, that's my real passion, is veteran stuff. I do CapTel, kind of, it's my nights and weekends job outside of being a VSO, which I view as my most important job. So if you have anything veteran-related question-wise, Tina's your person. Unless you're in Chicopee, then I'm your person. But as far as the product that I'm here to tell you about, it's the CapTel phone. It's a captioning phone. It is for people who are hearing impaired. You don't have to have a letter. In the past, you had to have a letter from your doctor, audiologist, saying that your hearing was below a certain threshold. They've removed that requirement. Now it's just based upon your own recognizance. So if you say that you have hearing loss, then CapTel believes you that you have the hearing loss. It is not also just for veterans. You don't have to be a veteran. As long as you're suffering from some level of hearing loss, you can get the product. Now, why is the product valuable to you? A couple of reasons. One, it's free, which is always great. The thing about it being free is that's the biggest question I get from most people when I install the phones. They're like, well, what is this going to cost me down the road? What's the bill going to be later on? There is no bill. If you ever get a bill, when I'm doing the installs, I tell you, if you get the bill, throw it in the trash. It's a lie. There is no bill for this. As long as you have an internet connection, I can set up a phone for you. There's two types of phones. One is called a VoIP phone that only requires internet. So it uses your internet signal to go to the device. The device then generates a phone number. That is your new phone number for your house. People can call you on that line. There's no cost to that. It just needs that internet signal. So as long as you have internet, you have that phone. There's no cost. Even though there's no cost to you, the way this phone is paid for, it's paid for by the American with Disabilities Act. So that act completely covers the cost of both the installation of the phone and the usage of the phone. That's it. That's all the fee. As far as the second type of phone, this is one with a landline. So if you do still have a landline in your house, I can install it and we can still use whatever your current number is. You can still keep that current number. Now, the other big benefit to the phone, it's not just that it's free, which is great. but also there's two things that it does. One is I can adjust it for your individual hearing loss. We can set it up so that your hearing aids, if you have hearing aids, can pair with the phone. And then the second thing is, if you're ever struggling, like right now, maybe I'm talking a little too fast for some people, maybe a little too slow for others, but it records everything that's being said. So there's a screen in front of you that you can watch while you're having that conversation, doing simultaneous transcription of everything you're hearing. So as they're talking, the words are showing up on the screen in front of you. So that's really a big benefit. And then in the future, if you can't remember what was said, so I find like this is a really big one for people. If you can't remember, let's say you talk to your daughter or your doctor and they said, hey, don't forget to do this on this day, and you can't remember what they said, you can go back to that conversation and you can see everything that they said. It can be a month later, it can be a voicemail, whatever it is, you can go back and actually see everything they said in that message. So I find it's very beneficial. Everyone I've set it up for has been happy with it. We haven't had a lot of complaints. I endorse the product, I love it, and I only do things that support veterans, so if it wasn't supporting veterans, I wouldn't care about it. That's pretty much everything about the product. Does anybody have any questions about it?
Your spouse is hearing impaired, but you're not. We get a landline phone.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you answer the phone?
Yeah, so...
Impaired if you're not impaired.
So, okay, so the phone works either with that hearing aid or without the hearing aid. So even if you're not the person, we set it for 3 different types. There's a high, medium, and low, or like the general settings. So you'll still be able to hear it even if you're not hearing impaired. The other thing is I usually set it up so that if you have other phones, like people are familiar with like satellite phones that you put in other rooms, those phones will still work. So you can still use those other phones. That's pretty much it, yeah.
Okay, so my uncle has Xfinity, his phone is through Xfinity. Is that considered a landline? Because he does not have
He
internet.
does not have Wi-Fi.
So he probably has internet, and his internet provides a phone line, or what do you mean?
He does not have internet, but the phone comes through
Cable.
his cable.
So he has like DSL internet as opposed to, or he has no internet at all?
It's cable, no internet at all.
Okay, so you do need internet. That's the only requirement. It can be Wi-Fi, even as long as you have good Wi-Fi.
Landline, that's not considered landline?
So that's if he just has a phone line that does not have any internet service, that's just a landline. I can't hook it up to that because it needs data in order to. You need some sort of data ability, yeah. So I can't install it in like nursing homes and things like that because they usually have a public Wi-Fi or a private Wi-Fi that I can sign on to, and I can use the Wi-Fi, that's fine. Most of the time, as long as it's a decent signal, that will work. Sometimes it'll slow down the rate at which it actually records everything, but generally it's always worked. Any other questions? All right. I have a phone set up over there if you want to take a look at it, and I'll answer any other questions you might have. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to have Mr. Dave Mendoza come on up. He's from USA or US Healthcare. He's going to talk about some healthcare insurance for people who are retired military.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me today. So personally, I'm a 30-year Air Force veteran, been retired now for 10 years. Went in at 18, so now you can figure out how old I am. But no, I've been doing the consulting on the TRICARE benefits here in Western Central Mass for the last 10 years. And we've been able to enroll almost 15,000 veterans and family members throughout the Pioneer Valley, helping them get the benefits that they earned with their retirement. We also work with those that are serving on active duty. So if you have someone in your family or somebody that you know of that's on active duty currently, their families get health care for free. And because we do not have any military hospitals, the last one we had in Western Mass was at Westover Air Force Base, which closed in the 70s. So we use the same hospitals and medical facilities that everybody else uses. So you've got Wing here, part of the Bay State Health System, as well as all the other community hospitals and doctors' offices. So if you know of somebody who's gotten out of the service, but they haven't become eligible for Medicare yet, then that's somebody that I should talk to. And again, if you know somebody who's on active duty, serving here at one of our local installations, their families get it for free. So please make sure, I'll leave some information, and I'll be here for a while too, but please take my card and info because we want to make sure they're getting their health care benefits. So often they just don't realize what they're entitled to until they get a huge bill, and then they realize they should have enrolled in a benefit. So I'm here to help them do that. So any questions for me at all? I know this is probably more, you were interested in the Medicare benefits. That's great. I'll be there very soon myself. Excellent. Thank you for your time. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. I'm going to have Amber from Munson Savings Bank come on up. I want to thank them for sponsoring today's events. There's coffee and refreshments back there and water. She's going to be talking about different kinds of accounts. Thank you, Amber.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Amber Messer. I'm with Munson Savings Bank. I'm the branch manager in our Munson branch location. I've been with Munson Savings for just about 8.5 years. So I'm very excited to be here today and talk with all of you about the importance of setting yourself up for success for your financial future, and also preparing for that was mentioned earlier, beneficiaries on different accounts that you might have, including checking, savings, or any CD accounts that might be opened, and also protecting yourself and your funds from scam prevention. So that's mostly what we're going to cover today. So as mentioned earlier, the importance of having that beneficiary on your account is really to make sure that that person you've selected is the one that you want to receive the funds once you've passed away. It's important to at least review that on a yearly basis. Things can change, life changes, families change. So really to make sure that you have that person selected as your designated beneficiary that you want to have listed on there. So just making sure that we, review that. As mentioned earlier, it can be a stressful time, of course, for our loved ones to navigate that. If a beneficiary is not selected, then they are dealing with the probate courts and needing to have a personal representative designated. It can just be very stressful. So if you're able to, review those bank accounts, making sure that you do have a designated beneficiary listed. And then I also wanted to talk about protecting yourself from scams. So unfortunately, scams are becoming very common, often targeted to our seniors and veterans, unfortunately. I'm sure that you hear it very often to protect yourself and to just take those cautions from different scams that we see out there. So some of those common scams include imposter calls. Ones that I've seen are grandparent scams. So unfortunately, what these imposters will do is they'll call you and say, your grandson or grandchild has been in a terrible accident. The only way that you can help them right now is to send funds to bail them out. They were found at fault for whatever car accident or something, some scenario that they'll come up with to try to get you to send them funds. And they'll have excuses for why you can't talk to your grandchild in that moment. And it's really, truly terrible. Working firsthand in the branches, unfortunately, we see this happen very often. And being, Munson Savings Bank for your financial partner, it's important for us to spot those scams and to really ask you questions and make sure that if there is a large sum of money coming out, that it's not going to end up in a scammer's hand. So it's really our priority to make sure that we're protecting our customers. Another common scam that we see often is romance scams. So sometimes, people will reach out to you, whether that's online or a phone call or an email, and they'll tell you all the right things you want to hear. They'll say, "Oh, you're so beautiful," and, "I'm so happy to have met you." And they'll typically, with those relationships, they'll move very, very quickly. And they'll talk about marriage in the first month, and it can all seem, very promising. But unfortunately, what these people are after is for their own personal gain, to have you send funds to them. So just some of the kind of key scams that we see. Unfortunately, the list can go on. I could probably stand up here for hours and talk about all of the different scams that we see. But it's just really important that if you're ever feeling that something is off from a conversation, it probably is. And talking with your bank before you make any decisions based off of withdrawals on your account or sending funds to an individual, really having that conversation first, because we're going to be able to spot that and have that conversation and mitigate loss for you and your bank account. The other thing to mention too is to also make sure that we're not sharing any of your online banking passwords, any sensitive information over the phone. It's really important to know that if your bank is going to call you, we're not going to ask you for your social security number. We're not going to necessarily ask for those sensitive details to call you and request it. Another common one is maybe the Social Security reaches out to you and says, we have to make changes on your benefits. You need to provide us with your banking information. They're not going to specifically reach out via phone call or a text message. So just kind of being aware of that and disregarding anything that seems suspicious. And typically if they're putting an urgency on a response, that's typically an indicator that that is a scam. But these days, like I've mentioned, just talking it through with somebody that you trust or coming right to us at the source at the bank, and we're happy to take a second look with you and make sure that we are protecting yourself and your funds. And in addition to that, really making sure, if you are not yet a customer of Munson Savings Bank, to at least check in with your bank and see how you can monitor your accounts and to make sure that you are staying on top of anything that might be an unauthorized charge, or just making sure that everything is set up as needed. Most banks do offer alerts that you can set up, whether that's through online banking or mobile banking, to just really keep an eye and make sure that everything that's coming through is what you've intended that to be. And I think that's about all I had today to cover. If you have any questions?
Well, I just want to make an addition because, as you know, I work at Bank Y. They
Sure.
just asked me to go get like a
Gift card,
and
yes.
stuff. They may not get access to your banking information, but if they ask you to go buy a gift card and give the numbers, that's also a really big indication. Because at Big Y, they're very big on that. They won't sell the gift card to somebody.
Absolutely.
They have questions to ask, but that's another big one.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. A lot of these bigger companies, they're not going to reach out to you and require payment by gift card. That's just not how that would be handled. It's likely a scam in those situations, so I thank you for mentioning that. Yes.
I have a question. We had an incident with a family member recently, and beneficiary is nice, but that's only if the person passes away. We had a family member that was incapacitated, did not have a power of attorney. Is that the only way that anyone or a family member could have access? Should somebody have been on their account, and how does that work?
Yeah, so if they're able to be, if they are able to be a joint owner on the account to sign checks, and if it's something that they trust to add to the account, that's always an option. And as you mentioned, the power of attorney, as long as it states in the power of attorney that they can handle banking transactions, that's really the only way that they could gain access.
So if they are a co-owner of that account, if there's anything wrong with that account, that co-owner is also responsible.
Yes, that's correct. That's why I mentioned trusted. So as long as you are comfortable with being added or vice versa, that's something that you could do. But, if it is an individual that you'd be concerned about that risk, the power of attorney is really the only other way to gain full access.
It's only when the party's still alive. Once they pass, that power of attorney is no longer valid.
That's correct. Yes. Yep. And that's where
I don't
that.
understand that.
Right. Yes. Thank you. So if anybody didn't hear, the power of attorney is no longer valid after the person passes. So that's why it's so important to have that beneficiary listed, because that's the person that would take over the funds in the account once they've passed. Any other questions that I could answer? No? Well, thank you so much.
All right, so we're going to have Mary come up. She's a representative from Cedar Brook Living Community. It's a senior living community. It's absolutely beautiful there. So, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Tina, for inviting me to speak today. As she mentioned, I am with Cedar Brook Village in Ware. Many of you may be familiar. We're an assisted living community. We've been open for just over 5 years, and I have been at Cedar Brook since it opened. And we have lots of veterans living with us and are very proud of that. And oftentimes, let me just kind of back up. Just to make sure everyone understands what assisted living is, not to go into a big, long speech about that, but it is a community where seniors 55 and over can come to live if they no longer are safe in the home or need assistance with their activities of daily living, such as, bathing, dressing, medication management, or just want to be in a setting where there's other people around. So it is socialization is a huge factor when it comes to quality of life. So oftentimes our seniors will just come because they don't want to be alone anymore. They want to have people to talk with. Maybe they lost a spouse. So we do offer that at Cedar Brook Village in Ware. So I'm just going to do a really brief overview on a benefit for veterans. Oftentimes I'm asked, is there any benefit for veterans? So we are private pay, which means that there isn't any insurance that covers it unless someone has long-term care insurance. That will cover assisted living. But what is available for seniors or living in assisted living or receiving care in the home? So the benefit that is available is called the VA Aid and Attendance benefit. And again, I'm just going to give you a general overview on that. But basically, and I'm going to read off my notes because I talk individually with families, but I haven't presented to a group. So I just want to cover like the key points. It is an additionally monthly payment added to a veteran or surviving spouse of a veteran, their pension when that person requires help with daily living or they're significantly limited by a disability. So it's designed to help cover long-term expenses such as I mentioned before, in-home care, assisted living, or a nursing home. The qualifications to be eligible is that you must need assistance with activities of daily living like dressing, bathing, toileting, transferring, medication management. You're bedridden due to a chronic illness. You reside in a nursing home due to mental or physical incapacity. You must have, so the requirements are you must have served at least 90 days of active duty, and with 1 day during a wartime. There is a household income and net worth that's looked at. You must be 65 or older or be permanently disabled. And that benefit, if you do qualify, is paid directly to the veteran or their surviving spouse. So it's not paid to the community to help offset the rent. It's a benefit that goes directly to the veteran or their surviving spouse. You have to apply for it. You have to have medical evidence like a doctor's assessment or, in our case, a care facility report that we are providing those services. And you can apply online. You can apply through a VA accredited VA representative or by mail. There are certain criterias for income. You can either get the full benefit or maybe you might only get a partial benefit per month, but it's depending on your net worth and your assets. But it is something that's available for people that or veterans, or their spouses that need assistance in later life with activities of daily living. I don't know, Tina, if you are involved in helping people through that process. So that's great. We also have, because we can give the information, but we do not help our residents or prospects through the process. We don't have that knowledge, but we do. There are organizations out there that we have recommended to our veterans that can help with that process, because it's important that it's done correctly, and that all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed in order to get that benefit. So does anybody have any questions on Cedar Brook or anything that I spoke of? Okay.
How much would a full veteran be?
So I have, if it's a single veteran, the amount changes every year. But right now, 2025, it's $2,358 for a single veteran. A married veteran with a spouse is $2,796, and if it were a surviving spouse of a veteran, it's $1,515, and that will probably be changing in 2026. But we do have residents living with us at Cedar Brook that are getting this benefit, and they deserve it. So, anything else? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tina.
All right, so I just want to thank everyone for coming today, and if anybody has any questions at all, we have the representatives that are waiting with bated breath to answer all your questions that you need, and if anybody has any questions about veterans benefits, you can call me at 413-283-2610. Thank you very much, and have a good night, and be careful driving.